This is the Georgia Dome, a football stadium completed in 1992 using $479 million public dollars. And this is Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which replaced the Georgia Dome before it was even 26 years old. It cost a total of $1.9 billion, nearly half of which was paid for by the public. In fact, plans to replace the Georgia Dome were in motion even before it had turned 18. This is not an anomaly. Teams from all four major sports leagues, the NFL, NHL, MLB, and NBA, are building themselves new facilities, doing costly renovations on existing facilities, negotiating contracts to do so, or at least floating the idea publicly. Sports teams owners really seem to fear their stadiums turning 30. We literally have a graph to prove it. Feel free to pause here for a closer look, but suffice it to say that the length of time that a stadium has hosted a professional sports team has shrunk considerably over the last 100 years. Today, the median age of professional sports stadiums and arenas is 24, and all signs point to us being on the precipice of another costly construction boom. This time, with flashy new stadiums like SoFi and Allegiant setting crazy high standards. More than 200 professional sports facilities have been built in the United States since 1909. This list notes each one, plus 13 more that are under construction, confirmed to have funding, or have recently been proposed. Oh, and two things. I'm just gonna say stadiums from now on to refer to stadiums and arenas, and every number that you see on screen has been adjusted for inflation to 2024 dollars. The decision to build a new stadium is rarely built on just one factor. A stadium could be old, dilapidated, in an inconvenient location, in a city that a team wants to leave, or any combination of those. But generally speaking, there have been waves of construction, and each wave tends to coincide with a particular reason. First reason, back here off the graph, is because they didn't exist yet. The first batch of stadiums hosted a professional team for an average of 57 years. Some of these are still around and are pretty iconic for it, like Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, and Soldier Field. Second is this wave. Stadiums built during this time were generally meant to lure teams away from their current cities. Cities in the Midwest, South, and West built flashy new stadiums to pilfer teams from the overcrowded Northeast. These stadiums hosted professional teams for an average of 37 years. Third is this wave, which split a lot of stadiums from multi-use to single-use. So instead of a football and baseball stadium or a hockey and basketball arena, now each team had their own place. These stadiums hosted professional teams for an average of just 23 years. And to be clear, a lot of them were perfectly fine. There are a few examples of being in dire straits, like Turner Field's terrible location in Atlanta, but a lot of them didn't really need to be replaced, at least not so soon. So finally, we arrive at today, where the median age of all these stadiums is about 24 years, and experts agree that we are on the verge of another construction boom. As for the reasons, we can identify some by looking at a few key examples, specifically in the NFL, where we're all sort of beholden to the egos of billionaire team owners, but we'll get there. First up, age. This is construction of the new stadium for the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, New York. After casually threatening to leave, the Bills owner secured $850 million in public funding to cover over half the cost of a new stadium. When it opens in 2026, it'll replace the Bills' existing 53-year-old stadium. 53 is pretty old by stadium standards, especially today. But that didn't make the owner's threat to leave any more palatable to local fans. Second reason, because the cost of renovation just became too much. This is the new stadium for the Tennessee Titans. Located across the street from the existing Nissan Stadium, it'll cost $2.1 billion, around $1.3 billion of which will come from taxpayers. That includes a brand new stadium and mixed-use surrounding development. When in talks to renovate the old stadium, which Football Stadium Digest said was built on the cheap, the costs apparently ballooned up to an estimated $1.8 billion. So in that sense, a new build wasn't that much more of a leap. And the third reason, to get a team, or two. This is SoFi Stadium. Opened in 2020, it was built to finally bring pro football back to Los Angeles after a 20-year absence. And it succeeded. SoFi now hosts the Chargers and the Rams, which left behind stadiums in San Diego and St. Louis, respectively.
I've been a huge Rams fan my whole life.
I'm so disappointed.
It hurts.
We're gonna miss them.
With its state-of-the-art locker rooms, many VIP amenities, and surrounding development, SoFi is sort of lauded as the stadium of the future. And that was the whole point of this massive undertaking, to meet and surpass expectations of fans and non-fans alike through all these slick amenities and entertainment options. Oh, and by the way, the total cost of all this construction is $5.5 billion, of which the taxpayers paid 0%. For the NFL at least, stadiums like SoFi and Allegiant are setting a new standard. Journalists who cover this topic talk about it as kind of an arms race between billionaire owners who compete for the Super Bowl, major concerts, and anything else that will continue to drive revenue, both in the on and off seasons. This league is really tight. These owners spend a lot of time together and they benchmark themselves against each other a lot, said one stadium architect. SoFi and Allegiant have everyone wondering how they can keep up. Just as a regular schmegular taxpayer who ends up inadvertently helping pay for these, given that the federal bonds used to fund them are tax exempt, I would just ask that our billionaire overlords please go the SoFi route and fully privately fund them, please and thank you. And I'm not alone. When given the option, voters frequently reject stadium funding proposals. But the public money fire hose isn't going to turn off anytime soon, despite decades of research and analysis proving conclusively that stadiums are a bad investment for taxpayers. One, because few politicians at the local, state, or federal level want to be the anti-sports person. And two, because the last time they tried, it backfired spectacularly. Yeah, the whole reason that public money is so readily available for stadiums dates back to a 1986 tax bill that was actually trying to stop the madness. It's a bit complicated, so long story short, Congress basically said, okay, cities, if you want your project to qualify for tax-exempt federal bonds, you have to be willing to fund 90% of it, thinking that no sane city would actually do that. And here we are. Congress said put up or shut up, and cities across the country put up, and up, and up, and up, and up. And that contributes to these shrinking stadium lifespans. If hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of public money are on the table, it more easily tips the scales in favor of building new, or at least doing such extensive renovations that the cost is about the same anyway. Even when the old stadiums haven't even hit 30. And that'll get really expensive if every team wants their own SoFi, minus the whole privately funding it part. By my count, just these 6 projects will cost the public a whopping $4.4 billion. And remember, this is just the start.